Hello, and welcome to Stuff That's Been on the News with Karen.
Take a look and a listen to this.
Palestine! You did it right! Everyone to the sea! Palestine will be free! To the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine! Free! Free! Palestine!
He's recruiting himself for wise company, but you know what it's all about. Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! 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 Palestine! Free! Free! Palestine!
Disgusting. That's what it is. Disgusting. The reason we had to blur that out was because they were all children. Children being used to chant anti-Semitic songs like that. I mean, it's unbelievable. What in God's name is going on?
And we marked the 75th anniversary of the Nakba in May this year with a demonstration on the streets, calling for the Palestinian right to exist, resist and return. We took to the streets again in July, following Israel's brutal attack on the Jenin refugee camp. And I know many in this room have been active on this issue for many years previous, because we all know that the route to ending this is an end to the occupation and the war on the Palestinian people. The first demonstration I ever took part in was in 2009. I came to London as a teenager to join the march against Israel's assault on Gaza. And it was at the time the biggest mobilisation in this country for Palestine. We said 100,000 people took to the streets. But in the last month, we've exceeded those numbers 4 times over. Those marches in the last month will have been many other young people's first taste of protest. And so we have to keep up that pace. We have to keep those people, young or old, engaged, involved, and aiming their anger at those in power. That won't always mean a national march in London. In fact, it strengthens the movement if we're building capacity and contacts in our local areas like we're doing tonight, and protesting in a range of ways to a range of targets. This Wednesday, Stop the War is calling from people in our trade union network to take action in their workplace, whether it's a walkout, a meeting, something to engage your colleagues, get them talking, get them committing to taking part in future action. And we're hoping that will build to a weekly Wednesday workplace action with more union branches getting involved as time goes on. And the same with the school strike, inspiring to see all these young people walking out of their schools on Friday just gone on the week previous, and that's building week on week as well, with university students joining them. This Friday we're expecting that to be more widespread still. And on Saturday we're expecting local groups across the country to be organising local actions to build up bases and show people that in every city, town, even village, that in this country that there are people who stand with Palestine. And I know that on Saturday, for those who are local to this area in particular, there's going to be a rally at Highbury and Islington Station at 12:30, called by Stop the War, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign in CND. You can find out who the speakers are tomorrow, but do get in touch if you want to help build that particular local action as well. Because it's through a mass movement that is present everywhere that we oppose imperialism everywhere too. We build opposition to Britain's role not just in Israel's war on Gaza, but in prolonging the war in Ukraine, in its arming of the Saudi-led war on Yemen, and to this entire warmongering government. Because Suella might be out of the door today, but tomorrow we're coming for the rest of them.
All right, let's talk about some news. This is a Fox News alert. 6 Capitol police officers are injured after battling anti-Israel protesters outside of the DNC headquarters last night. Several Democratic lawmakers had to be escorted out, and all House offices were placed on lockdown.
The man from Tennessee as well, Griff Jenkins, is live from Washington. Griff, what can you tell us? Well, good morning, guys. And you know, Lawrence, it was such a contrast. On Tuesday, I was out at that nearly 300,000 peaceful pro-Israel folks out there rallying on the mall. But compare it to last night. Look at this video. A violent mob of about 150 pro-Palestinian protesters blockading the doors to the DNC headquarters, demanding a ceasefire while punching and cursing Capitol Police officers, forcing the U.S. Capitol into lockdown, as Ainsley mentioned, in the evacuation of lawmakers from the DNC, like Congressman Brad Sherman, who posted this on social media. He said was just evacuated from the DNC after pro-terrorist anti-Israel protesters grew violent, pepper spraying police officers in attempting to break into the building. Now, Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna said, quote, "My husband, newborn, and I are in my office in the Capitol, which just went into lockdown because of these uncontrolled protesters." Now, in the end, 6 police officers sustained injuries. 1 protester was arrested for assault of an officer, yet the protest organizers claimed it was peaceful. Watch.
The folks in that building tonight, the folks in Democratic leadership have not been listening to the 80% of us from our diverse communities that support a ceasefire and to stop this genocide of Palestinians. And instead of being met with leaders engaging with us, instead of being met, again, our peaceful protest, we were met by police.
And something just to note in there, that protest organizers saying that they stood outside of the DNC wanting to send a message that 80% of Democrats are for a ceasefire. I just spoke to Republican Congressman August Pfluger, who was in our hallways here. I said, what do you make of this? Are all Democrats for a ceasefire? He said, I was with Democrats last night when they got locked down in the Capitol, and he said the majority of Democrats support Israel. Quite a contrast from what those organizers are saying. Guys, I'll send it back to you at the Grand Ole Opry.
So, Griff, it looks like this is political intimidation. Whether you agree with the Dems or not, it looks like these radical activists are trying to get them to change their policy on this. And I just wonder if the feds plan on doing anything about that. Have you heard anything?
That's a great question, Lawrence, and we've heard nothing from the federal authorities about what they're going to try and do to get it under control. But you put your finger on something I think that's important, Lawrence, and that is the organizers behind this were the Democrat Socialists of America, a protest group, but they've been involved with some of these other protests in other cities that have gotten violent and involved with some of the actions on college campuses. It's the Democrat Socialists of America as well as the Jewish Voice for Peace group that has come onto the scene since October 7th. So we'll see if anything comes of it in terms of a federal response.
Pro-Palestinian protesters have swarmed to Port Botany, demanding a boycott of Israeli shipping company.
It was a largely peaceful demonstration, a far cry from chaotic scenes in Melbourne last night, where punches were thrown and a synagogue forced to evacuate.
As blasts continue to rock the Middle East, emotions are exploding too in Australia, today in Sydney,
Palestine will be free!
And last night in Melbourne. This pro-Palestinian rally ended in violence when 200 protesters clashed with Israeli.
Hello, that was organised by the Socialist Alliance in Australia, the Victorian branch.
Supporters outside a synagogue.
Oh, the pepper spray's out!
It happened after a Muslim-owned burger store was set alight, although police say they don't believe the arson attack was politically motivated.
Palestine will be free!
Protests too today at Port Botany, hundreds of people gathering on the foreshore and on the water, a sea of Palestinian flags.
What's happening over there is horrific.
Demanding a ceasefire and a boycott of Israeli shipping company Zim, accusing it of transporting weapons.
See the socialist in the solidarity, the little socialist fist? Yep.
Taking the fight directly to...
Sorry, they provide the signs and the flags and things. So to set people up, they organise the protests. So where are we? This is probably Socialist Alliance.
The port to say no trade in Port Botany with Zeb.
The ship that was scheduled to be in port wasn't here.
Sometimes it's better to hit people in the economic department to get a deeper effect.
New South Wales police were out in force today too, but these protests were peaceful. More are planned in the city tomorrow and tonight. A ride is underway from Lidcombe, organised by controversial figure Zaki Mallah, once acquitted of terror charges.
To help in the cause to raise some donations for them.
Police escorting the convoy all the way to Coogee.
With so many protests being planned here in Sydney every weekend, it is becoming a challenge for police, not because those here are violent, but because of the difficulties in rostering on enough officers to attend them all.
People here vowing they won't stop.
It will continue as long as there is no ceasefire. As long as the genocide is happening, it will go on.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
But like I said, art of cowardice. And look, whilst we're at it, I think we should call out the whole British state. Fuck the police, they're never going to intimidate us. We will come out and protest right now. And also, shame on the media. Shame on the media. I'm sorry, but the BBC, are they mad? 300,000 people on Saturday. Sorry, I thought it's bullshit. Bollocks. There's at least 800,000 people, if not a million. What we have to do is next time, that demo has to be so big that they don't even dream of trying to lie about the numbers because they wouldn't get away with it. So look, just to finish with really, I'm really glad to be here today. I'm excited to get into our organising breakout rooms. I think it's important to say as well, talking about the Labour Party, it's not just the Tories who are scraping the barrel when it comes to ex-Prime Ministers. People would have heard that Benjamin Netanyahu is thinking about getting Tony Blair's assistance for humanitarian role in Gaza. Now, I'll tell you something about Tony Blair. The man doesn't know the meaning of humanitarian. He hasn't got an ounce of humanity in him. That's the man who knows the thing was true about murdering innocent people in the Middle East. I'll tell you that for sure. He's a war criminal, he should be jailed, along with Netanyahu and anybody else who lines up with them. So look, we don't need the leaders, we don't want the leaders. Our movement is in the streets. I just want to finish with really saying we have to call out every single politician, anyone who's complicit and stands with the Israeli state. We want to see an end to the apartheid state of Israel, victory to the Palestinian resistance, and actually a free Palestine from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean.
But if I had a kid at Harvard, and thank God I don't, but if I did, I'd call him right now and say, get your fanny to the Boston airport right now, get on the first plane that takes off from there, and let me know where your connection is. You're coming home. We're going to find you a school that won't cost me not only a fortune, but the brains of my child. Get your butt home.
You know, Governor, we all have seen as conservatives the rot on college campuses, and it's real. But most of America, I don't think, really was seeing it like conservatives did. And now it's the Band-Aid's been ripped off, and everyone is noticing what's happening on college campuses. How would you deal with this? How do you get college campuses and what's happening, what our kids are being taught, the ideology on campuses? How do we get that back under control? How do we get a college system where they teach kids about the Constitution, the founders, to love America, real history? How does that happen? Otherwise, if this doesn't change, this country is absolutely doomed, because these are the future, CEOs, governors, presidents, congressmen. The country's in trouble if this doesn't change.
Yeah, I wouldn't want the future CEOs and governors and senators coming out of Harvard, Yale, and Princeton anymore. Maybe there was a time when they got a great education. But, I've debated people who were graduates of these schools. I've been on every one of those campuses to speak and interact with students. I never felt like that somehow they were just smarter than the rest of America. So I'd say to all the donors, close your checkbooks. I'd say to all the parents, don't send your kids there. And I'd say to the boards of these institutions, take control of your university, create a university that does what Harvard was chartered to do. Most people don't know. Harvard was chartered in the honor of a minister to train people for the propagation of the Christian ministry. How far have they fallen from the original mission? I'll bet you there's not 2% of the Harvard students who even know the history of Harvard and to know why it was created and what its origins were. Maybe that would scare them off the campus if they ever knew.
It's like the playwright David Mamet said, it's like sending your daughter to work in a brothel so she can meet powerful men.
There's some stuff that's been on the news. See you later. Bye.